Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So, I have finally finished The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monika Kim. If you are confused by why my cover looks like this is the original cover. I received this in both a Nightworms and a Twisted Retreat package, so I do have the deluxe Twisted Retreat version of it. This has been talked about everywhere. I've heard that it's been in many book boxes this year. I've seen nothing but like really strong reviews on this book, so I figure, you know what, I think it's time to read this. This is the debut novel by Monika Kim, so I had never heard of her before. It's supposed to be kind of like dark body horror with a little bit of like absurdist kind of wacky comedy in it. I kind of think maybe I get all of that. I don't know. I'm gonna say right off the bat, I wanted to love this book. I wanted to love this book, and going into this review, please know that this is just my opinion, and if you do not agree with my opinions, that's totally cool, and we can discuss it civilly in the comments. But I've been getting so many comments recently where somebody disagrees with my opinions on a book, and it's just, they're just so mean with what they say. I'm not going to respond to those comments. If you want to discuss our differing opinions, that's totally cool. I love doing that, but just don't be a jerk. So yeah, just remember, don't be offended, because I wasn't the biggest fan of this book, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to read the inside flap first, and then I'll dive into it. So it says, feminist psychological horror about the making of a female serial killer from a Korean-American perspective. Ji-won's life tumbles into disarray in the wake of her Appa's extramarital affair and subsequent departure. Her mother, distraught. Her younger sister, hurt and confused. Her college freshman grades failing. Her dreams, horrifying, yet enticing. In them, Ji-won walks through bloody rooms full of eyes, succulent blue eyes, salivatingly blue eyes, eyes the same shape and shade as George's, who is Uma's obnoxious new boyfriend. George has already overstayed his welcome in her family's claustrophobic apartment. He brags about his puffed-up consulting job, ogles Asian waitresses while dining out, and acts condescending towards Ji-won and her sister as if he deserves all of Uma's fawning adoration. No, George doesn't deserve anything from her family. Ji-won will make sure of that. For no matter how many victims accumulate around her canvas, or how many people she must deceive and manipulate, Ji-won's hunger and her rage deserves to be sated. A brilliantly inventive, subversive novel about a young woman unraveling, Monika Kim's The Eyes Are the Best Part is a story of a family falling apart and trying to find their way back to each other, marking a bold new voice in horror that will leave readers mesmerized and craving more. So I will be doing a spoiler section for the latter half of this video because I feel like I really need to talk about a lot of the ending of this book. But before I do that, let's just have a moment for this beautiful edition from Twisted Retreat. I really love it, and having read the book now, I'm just like, it's so good. This is like such a great interpretation of the interior of the book, and so I am just like thrilled with this. I really love this, and I just have to check and see the breaks in all of the breaks in both versions are little chopsticks, and I didn't realize that until like halfway through the book, and I just think this was like that was very funny, and I love that they did that. Anyhow, let's chat about this book. I think my biggest issue, I have two main issues with just the overall tone of the book. First off, this is a horror story. It is kind of a very grotesque kind of serial killer origin story, and that's something that I am interested in reading. However, the first like third to half of this book really doesn't have any horror in it. It's really building up to what's going to be very horrific and gory, but I just felt like it needed more sprinkled throughout. Like, I just kind of felt like I was reading about a pretty awful family drama. And so that to me just kind of like, I enjoy Monika Kim's style of writing. I really do like her style of writing. I just found myself kind of getting bored with the redundancies of all of the setup to get to where the climax kind of starts to come in at the halfway point and everything starts to devolve into chaos. Another thing that I found a little irritating was the text messages. I understand the use of text messages in stories now, but some of them I just found so irritating, especially the text between Jiwon and Jeffrey. I just thought they were so childish, and I think that was the point with all the cat emojis, and it was just like, okay, I get it, like 1 or 2 times here and there, but it just like kind of went on a little bit longer than it should have, and I was just like, oh, okay, sure. But I just found that like a little irritating, and it just felt very much like a normal story about a dysfunctional family kind of declining, and then eventually became a horror story. So I needed more horror towards the front half of the book. I needed things kind of sprinkled in here and there that would make you go, oh, what's going to happen here? You know, I just felt like it was a lot of setup, more so than needed for the payoff. The other issue I have with this novel is it's called a feminist psychological horror story. And I sort of see the feminism in there, because this kind of the idea of feminism literally is there will be no good male characters. And I don't think that that necessarily works for me. I think when you write a novel and it's kind of really harping on how bad men are, when you just have 3 main male characters and all of them are bad, and not only are they all bad, they're all very stereotyped, very cliche, kind of check all of the boxes, you know, of like middle-aged white man who fetishizes Asian women. Like, check all of the boxes that fit under that kind of like bad stereotype. Like, and then you have like the stereotype of their father, which is this like kind of disgraced Korean man who was only given daughters and wants nothing more than to be successful with a son, with like that kind of ideology. And then you have Jeffrey, who is the kind of like uses the right trendy, socially, politically correct verbiage to try and get a girl who doesn't like him to like him, and feels like because he was nice to her that she owes him, right? And you have these 3 stereotypes, and they just felt so like they felt like caricatures. But then there's no other male characters throughout the novel, and so this a lot of the book is just like Jiwon being like, these are bad people, men are bad. And I just feel like if there had been like one good character, like a cop, or like maybe if Alexis was a boy, like it wouldn't have felt so like I don't like men. And that's just kind of how it came off to me. And then you have on top of that, the women in this novel aren't necessarily pillars of excellence. Obviously our main character is a serial killer. But then you have Alexis, who I don't necessarily think is as good as Jiwon makes us seem. And I would say I mainly derive that from her just blatant willingness to be giving out prescription drugs to people. Like, that was kind of a red flag for me. And then you have Jiwon's little sister, who is pretty much just written off to just be kind of this like frivolous child who doesn't know any better, except she's like a junior in high school or sophomore in high school maybe. So it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe give her more credit, because she seems to be the one who's actually kind of figuring everything out, and is actually having a healthy reaction to everything, but everybody in the book is just writing her off. And then finally you have the mother, who is just a truly, truly awful, selfish and weak woman. And I hated the portrayal of the mom. I really, really despised the portrayal of the mom being just so selfish and then so weak, and just having literally no other personality apart from being dependent on the toxic men in her life and not caring at all about how it affected her children. So, and those are our characters. Those are basically the characters that we work with throughout the novel. And not a single one of them was likable. And they were all very, very one-dimensional. They were all very, very cliche, very, very stereotyped. And so I couldn't really connect with any of them. I found it very, very difficult to care about them. However, I loved Monika Kim's writing style. It was very fast-paced. It was very cheeky. It was like, it moved the story along once things started to get going. And I liked being in Ji-won's head. And I think what I liked about that too is at first, like, I didn't really think of her too much as an unreliable narrator, because I felt like at first she was just kind of saying everything that was happening. You know, she had no reason to be misleading the reader. And then as things started to devolve, then you could kind of see that she was picking and choosing what to say and what not to say. And her unreliability became more and more obvious. And I really liked that development. Because I even said to myself, I was like, wow, like, I know that this is probably an unreliable narrator, but I don't feel like I have to question anything that's being told to me, because at the beginning she is showing the good and the bad, and she is showing her, like, descent into madness. But then as she's trying to start covering her tracks, you start to really see, like, everything kind of start to fall apart, and some of what she's saying not quite makes sense. She's also a terrible, terrible, terrible friend. But I'm going to get to that in the spoiler section. But yeah, this was a 3-star read for me. And it was a 3-star read for me because I loved the writing style. I loved how much of Korean culture was pulled into this. I thought it did a really, really, really good job of pulling in so many different aspects of not only Korean culture, but also, like, LA culture. I think you got a really nice balance of those two things, and you really felt like Monika Kim knew everything that she was talking about. And there is this amazing gross out factor, and this obsession with these blue eyes that leads Ji-won, like, into this crazy downfall. I thought was really well done, and I liked how it was built up. I just think that it was more buildup was in than needed to be to get us to where the story started to really, really, really pick up. I think it's interesting too because Ji-won is definitely a character who is able to manipulate the people around her, but I think it's interesting watching how she is also kind of easily manipulated around by her surroundings. Like, I do feel like at first her mom manipulates her, then Jeffrey manipulates her, then Alexis manipulates her. You know, but she doesn't really see that any of that is happening. So I'm going to get into the spoilers. Now, again, this was a 3-star read from me. I think my spoilers are probably going to give more in-depth reasoning as to why it didn't fully work the way I wanted it to. So the spoilers will be starting now. But I want to talk about Alexis and Jeffrey, because I think this was really, really interesting. Like, it was very obvious to me that Jeffrey clearly had a crush on Ji-won, and I was unsure if she was aware of it or not in the story, as her unreliable narrator kind of seems to lead us. She seems to kind of be dumb towards it, to play dumb about all of that and not really realize that that's what's happening. But it's not until her infatuation with being close to Alexis, and Alexis very blatantly points out all of the negative things about Jeffrey, that Ji-won totally flips and becomes a completely different person to him. And Jeffrey kind of says to her over and over, like, she's pushing a wedge between us, right? And Ji-won is like, no, I don't think so. But there is a scene to show that Alexis does have other motives, and that Jeffrey and Alexis don't get along. So I really think that because Ji-won liked Alexis so much, we didn't quite see all of Alexis's flaws, and then we started highlighting Jeffrey's flaws because that's what Ji-won wanted to show. So I thought that was really, really interesting. Again, I don't necessarily think that Alexis is a good character either. I did find her to be slightly manipulative. I did find her to be slightly reckless, especially with the pills that she gives to Ji-won. I thought that was really, really interesting. And then obviously once Ji-won started using the pills, we start to see her unreliableness, because how did that first homeless man get those sleeping pills? You know, like, there's definitely these pinpoints here and there that are like, I don't know. And did Jeffrey, who has been following her, see her attack that first homeless man? You know, like, there's a lot of things about that like, it's hinted that he might have witnessed it, especially because he was following and she sees that flash of green, but it's never clear. And I feel like if Jeffrey knew, like, he really falls right into her trap. So maybe he didn't, and he was just kind of, like, easily there. I don't know. And, like, Was he actually following her on the bus constantly, or was it all in her head? Like, there was just a lot of weird, again, like, cloudy things that I didn't quite understand. And then we also get to, like, George, and I just found George absolutely awful, and the fact that he did so many things, and the mom is so forgiving over and over and over and over and over again. Again, it does give Ji-won the motive that she needs, but she does start to just randomly take it out on random people beforehand. You see her, like, descent into madness. But once she does her whole confrontation with George and Jeffrey comes and, like, saves the day or whatnot, like, the police are aware that George was attacking Ji-won. In what world would they put that man next to his victim? It made absolutely no sense to me. Like, she clearly had the bruising on her neck. Why would the cops do that? And to me, that just felt like lazy writing. Like, I felt like there could have been a different type of ending. Obviously, after Jeffrey stole the backpack, it was very apparent that Ji-won would say, oh, like, I'm going to set you up because now you have the weapon, right? So that to me was really, really strange, and I didn't buy it. And at the same time, I still didn't buy how her mom, who would know at this point that her fiance attacked her daughter and knows that her fiance is seeing another woman, would still choose the fiance over the daughter. And the daughter just doesn't seem to care. Like, she can forgive the mom, but at the end you also find out that she can't forgive her dad for tearing her family apart. Her mom is just as responsible. So I felt like it was a lot of misplaced anger and rage, and I didn't understand it. Yeah, I didn't like that at all. And I felt like the brain tumor storyline was completely unneeded. Because I thought what was going to happen is they were going to be like, oh my god, you had a brain tumor. And you were like, oh wait, that's why she was going crazy. That's why she was having the visions. That's why she was having these thoughts. That's why she was acting erratically. But then the tumor's removed, and nothing has changed about her. So then it's like, oh, the tumor wasn't what was causing her crazy actions. It was just her. And she's going to continue to pursue those actions. So what was the point of the brain tumor? It really could have just been that she had a really bad head injury from the attack and just had to stay there. Like, that would have been fine. But instead, we get this, like, random, like, throw aside, it was a brain tumor. It was like saying, like, it was a dream all along. No, it wasn't. Show us the descent into madness. She's got the motivation. You know, like, yeah, she can start to be a little crazy. And you can see that she's been crazy the whole time because of how she manipulates her friends from high school. You know, I thought that Monika Kim did a really good job of originally showing Ji-won as kind of a good girl, and then as her past opens up, you see, oh no, she has been jealous and manipulative for as long as she basically has existed. Especially the way that she treats her little sister. So I just felt like, oh man, like, there were some really good ideas in this book. And again, I liked how it was written. I really liked her tone of voice, and I found myself really quickly reading the second half of the book. Like, once it started to all actually come together, I was like, this is great. Like, I love this style of writing. I love how fast and easy it is to read. But then I was like, it just doesn't make sense. And I wanted to like it because it was gross, and it was creepy, and it was ridiculous, and it was so absurdist and over the top. But then I didn't love the messages that were being sent, and I didn't love the kind of no fault that ended up on Ji-won. And it's kind of this idea that the people who did wrong got what they deserved, but there were still innocent people that were hurt. And like that homeless man, her first two victims were completely innocent. I understand sort of the mental motivation that she had against the backward baseball cap guy. I did get that. But even him, it's like, I mean, he was a jerk, but he didn't deserve that. You know, I mean, none of the victims really deserved what was coming to them, but again, absurdist horror novel, I get that. But she got off scot-free, and I don't think that was fair. And then she has this brain tumor to be, see, you can't actually blame me. And it's like, no. That should not be the end message of this book. So I don't know. I wanted to like it. I really did. My copy had a couple typos, and I'm not sure if it's because it's the Twisted Retreat version, or if there was just a couple typos that made it into the book in the final printing. But I'm usually okay, like, ignoring one or two typos, but there was like 3 or 4, and I was kind of like I feel like these should have been picked up on. But again, super, super nitpicky. But yeah, 3 stars. I would definitely read more from Monika Kim because, again, I liked the culture, I liked the absurdism, I liked the originality of this book. And again, I really liked the writing style. I just don't think overall I liked or respected any of the characters involved, and I don't think I liked the message that was sent at the end of the book. Because, again, what Ji-won did was not okay. And the ending didn't hit hard enough where it's like, oh man, the bad guy got away with it. It's like kind of glorifying one of the villains in the story, because almost everybody in the story is a bad character. So I don't know. I wanted to really like it. I will definitely read more from Monika Kim. But for me, this was just kind of a, ew, that was gross and wacky and weird kind of book. So, but I did read it really quickly. I think I read it in 3 days. So definitely didn't hate it, but definitely didn't love it as much as all of the reviews and people have said that I would. So, oh well. Anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I try to post every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on Saturdays. And if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and I will catch you on the next one. Mwah.